Welcome to UCCS-IASP's first ever event, Complex Systems on the Move. My name is Sudhanshu Kumar Samwal. I would like to start with acknowledging presence of UCCS Chancellor, Dr. Venkat Reddy in this event today. Thank you. UCCS-IASP is joining many existing programs to strengthen cross-campus interdisciplinary efforts. Today, our agenda includes 70 names, 36 presentations, 5 external members, and a message from Santa Fe Institute. Thank you all for attending. Provost Dr. Christensen announced UCCS-IASP on April 30th, 2021. It is designed to support programmatic and research ideas that would involve 3 or more colleges and connect with new possibilities nationally and internationally. Opening remarks from our provost, Dr. Tom Christensen, are next. Without Dr. Christensen's vision and support, UCCS-IASP will not be here today. Thank you, Dr. Christensen.
Well, thank you, Dr. Samwal, and welcome to everyone to the first event of our new Interdisciplinary Academic Studies program, where we'll be celebrating and supporting the wide range of interdisciplinary activities at UCCS. This program developed out of conversations between Dr. Samwal and me over the past year. Professor Samwal approached me asking if there was some way that he could further contribute to the campus. And I've been concerned about the obstacles that we create when people try to work in an interdisciplinary manner. Recognizing Dr. Samwal's interdisciplinary experience as director of the honors program, I suggested that this might be a good area to explore. What followed was a series of discussions that refined this idea to try to figure out how we might support the faculty as they seek to develop interdisciplinary academic programs and research efforts. We decided that broad efforts involving more than 2 colleges were the most challenging. And so we focused the efforts of this program on supporting and encouraging these broad interdisciplinary efforts. Today's program briefly introduces many programs that have contributed to the interdisciplinary efforts at UCCS. We hope that these brief presentations will help raise awareness of the many exciting opportunities that are happening at UCCS and will lead to even more connections and collaborations across the artificial lines that we often draw around academic disciplines. To get us started today, our Chancellor, Professor Venkat Reddy, has a few remarks. Dr. Reddy has been on our campus for 30 years as a business professor, dean, a leader in our online academic efforts, and now as our Chancellor. We welcome Chancellor Venkat Reddy.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning. We made it through the spring semester. I hope you all had a restful start to the summer. And I'm very glad for the opportunity to be with you all today. Despite the challenges of the past 14 months, our faculty has continued to exceed all expectations. It is truly amazing to be with you all today for this symposium, focused on the new Interdisciplinary Academic Studies program. This initiative represents the work of many faculty members. I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Sudhanshu Samwal. Thank you, Dr. Samwal, for everything you did and continue to do to make the IASP successful. The IASP was developed by Dr. Samwal and Provost Tom Christensen over the last 15 months. Its goals are to help faculty develop new partnerships, create new opportunities to collaborate on research and creative works, and propose degree programs from 3 or more colleges. This work is critical to our mission of preparing students for the challenges of the future and generating new knowledge for the benefit of our society. As we train students to enter increasingly technological fields, it has become more important than ever to prepare them with interdisciplinary training. And as we engage in scholarship for the benefit of society, it has become increasingly clear that our most pressing problems require creative solutions spanning multiple disciplines. Interdisciplinary academic programs and research are critical for helping us to meet the challenges of tomorrow. What is exciting about the IASP is that it'll formalize many of the processes that may already exist on our campus. Many faculty and programs on campus today already engage in interdisciplinary work. The IASP will help reduce duplicated efforts and support new programs and proposals. In fact, the IASP represents an idea that is central to the university, that we are stronger and better together. I truly believe this is the future for the universities, an interdisciplinary approach to take on and solve today's and tomorrow's challenges. Collaboration, innovation, and supporting each other are part of our DNA here at UCCS. Thank you once again, Dr. Semwal, for inviting me to speak at the symposium this morning. I'm very excited to see where this new initiative takes us next. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Provost Tom Christensen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Reddy. I am very pleased that we have our two most recent CU distinguished professors joining us this morning, Professor Terry Bolt and Professor Robert von Dosanowski. The title of Distinguished Professor is the highest honor that the CU system bestows on a faculty member. CU Distinguished Professors must demonstrate exemplary performance in research or creative work, a record of excellence in classroom teaching and supervision of individual learning, and outstanding service to the profession, to the university, and to its affiliates. Dr. Bolt will speak first. Terry joined UCCS in 2003 as the Al Pomar Endowed Chair of Innovation and Security. He's a fellow of the Institute of Electric and Electronics Engineers. In addition to his wide range of contributions to research in machine perception, biometric security, and long-range imaging, Terry may be best known on our campus as the founder of the Bachelor of Innovation program. This unique interdisciplinary program combines a major with an interdisciplinary emphasis area and courses in innovation and entrepreneurship. Terry, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Tom. So yes, my career, I've actually been an interdisciplinary researcher. I've done joint work with professionals in lots of different fields on our campus. I've actually done joint proposals with people in every college on our campus. Not always funded, but I've tried. Large-scale art joint proposals to education proposals to business proposals, and obviously lots of engineering. To me, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, I actually draw a slight distinction. In interdisciplinary work, I work with people and I learn about their field. So I do interdisciplinary work with Chip, where I've learned a lot about psychology, and I do work that's at the boundary that mixes the two fields. And then I do multidisciplinary work where I have my piece and I do my part of the work and somebody else does their piece. Both of them are very important. Truly interdisciplinary work is a lot more effort because you have to learn about someone else's field to live at the boundary between them. And I'm glad to see campus trying to be more supportive of interdisciplinary studies. From a research point of view, I think it's an opportunity for us to find places where we can compete in a niche at the national and international level, because we have that opportunity. If very few people are in the niche, then it's easier to be the world's leader in what you're doing. But from our students' point of view, I think the real value is that the world is becoming more and more integrated and at minimum multidisciplinary. The students must learn to work with people from other fields, not within their own silos. And as I've experienced at both my previous institution and here, truly multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary work is difficult in a university where silos define the way things are funded, the way people are promoted. And it's not just in universities, it's true in industry, but industries have more flexibility to break their silos than the traditional academia style. So coming up with a more supportive process is something I think can really help our university continue to thrive and grow at that boundary. So, this is an exciting time as the world continues to evolve and grow. What our students will do a decade from now is very different from what they are doing now, which is very different from what we were doing a decade past, right? The world is moving very fast, and a lot of that fast intersection is about them having to not just build on what they know, but learn things they don't know that don't even exist and find a way to make that intersection of ideas happen for them in a way that grows their career. So I'm not sure what else I was supposed to say, so that was my introduction. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Terry. Next, we hear from Professor Robert von Dosanowski, who personifies interdisciplinary work with an appointment at UCCS, both in our Department of Languages and Cultures, where he teaches German, and in our Department of Visual and Performing Arts, where he is the founding director of our Film Studies program. He's an internationally recognized expert in Austrian studies, with a specialization in Austrian, German, and American cinemas and their intersections with literature, philosophy, and politics. He's been recognized with honors many times, but I was most intrigued by his being named a Fellow of the Royal Society for the Encouragement of Arts, Manufactures, and Commerce, which is a title he shares with Benjamin Franklin, Stephen Hawking, and Charles Dickens. Professor Robert von Dosanowski.
Thank you so very much, Tom. I guess you've already introduced my introduction. The fact that everything I do is interdisciplinary, and that has been the trail of my success. And that's also why I chose to stay in academia, even though I had been working in film as well. And also, I came from UCLA back in 1994 to take up at UCCS, which at that time was very, very strict in its siloing, in its single disciplinary learning methods and so forth. And I arrived here as the traditional Germanist, even though I knew I could do other things and wanted to do other things. But we were a small institute at that time, and we didn't have enough faculty members, so everybody had to do something more. We had the wonderful humanities program, which officially gave faculty the ability to reach out and do something interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary. But we also did that with our own fields. I ended up becoming tenured in 2 different departments that are, of course, intersecting, because languages and cultures and visual and performing arts mirror each other and transect in many ways. But it was the first experience where I officially had the opportunity to teach and to research on an interdisciplinary level. And that's what I did. And it, of course, constantly created new levels of interdisciplinary quality at UCCS as we started to grow. And I've been seeing this since 1994, that we have developed into the multiversity from the university that we were, and that our organic aspects of interdisciplinary teaching and research and building programs was something that other universities, larger than we were, perhaps more famous at the time, were struggling to implement. Whereas for us, it was unnatural. This is what we did. This is what we had to do. And if you wanted to do something more, you asked someone, your chair, the dean, the chancellor, and it was like, yes, go ahead, follow that, do what you want to do. And I did. And I must say that, particularly in languages and cultures, we had an interdisciplinary, individual interdisciplinary course that could be adapted to any field. And that often, quote, saved the life of many of our students who had come here and had wanted to discover themselves and taste what higher education is all about, and were in some ways disappointed that it didn't reach far enough, or they weren't their ideas of wanting to do something wasn't represented in our catalog. And there was the interdisciplinary independent study. And students just absolutely were thrilled by this. And we've been doing this ever since. It's become much more concrete now, where we can tell the students, look, you can create your own major in this situation, and you're actually doing more work than the sort of the traditional major, because you are getting a degree in 2 to 3 fields that interconnect, and that research or activity is absolutely needed. And very few institutions had that. Now they do. Even the rest of CU has that, and it's very popular. But I still remember students who would come to my office in tears saying, well, you know, I wanted to be a photographer. And I see that we have great photography classes, but there's no major there. There's no minor there. How am I going to make this work? But plus, I'm also interested in foreign languages and so forth and so on. We made it work. And it still is very special and very unique. And these students have gone on to amazing futures. There isn't a semester in the last, 5 to 8 years in which we haven't placed our film students in basically the top 3 MFA programs in the country, if not in the world: USC, Loyola Marymount, UCLA, and so forth. And they are embraced by those institutions because instead of having a solidly one-dimensional background in filmmaking or film research, they understand history, they understand culture, that most of them have a second or third language. They've made films, they know film theory, they do all these things hitting the ground as they go into a master's program, and that's exactly what these major universities want. And we've already created strong ties that way. For me, of course, it allowed me to expand into not just being the traditional Germanist, but doing what I have always done. And I started life out as an actor and in film, in actual film, not just studying about it and being behind the camera. So I wanted to bring that into the other aspects of education, and I have. And in visual and performing arts, we are all interdisciplinary. I think we love that department and the program and each other, because there isn't a moment where we don't reach out to the other faculty members and say, look, this is crossing into your area and I'm fascinated with it. So can you give me some pointers so that I can talk to the student about it? Or I'll send you the student and we'll all talk about it. It's a marvelous way to move into the 21st century with this kind of multiculture. And it's allowed me to write 9 books and to do things that I never thought I could do. And the same thing parallels with the languages and cultures, where you are by dint of being in a languages and cultures department, that you're dealing with all sorts of languages, and you must understand how they relate to each other or don't relate to each other, or are connected through interdisciplinary study. So it's not just my upper German culture courses, but it's also how Germans and Germany have been seen in American film since the First World War to the present, or the concept of the EU. We've got a European studies program that we are getting off the ground, where there will be traditional Europeanist ideas, but there will also be dealing with the problems and the challenges of the EU in the 21st century. And we're doing it through culture. So that allows a lot of freedom and even more overlapping on these interdisciplinary concepts. I just wanted to say that There have been times when I've been cajoled to move on, go somewhere. Other institutions were interested in the work that I was doing or that I had done, and I gave it a shot in the sense of seeing how the other half lives. And I've stayed here, obviously, because the freedom is exhilarating, and that freedom comes from this multiversity that we've become naturally and organically, whereas everyone is trying to catch up with us. And so IASP takes what is a glowing tradition at UCCS and expands it to cross-college degrees. I cannot wait to see what that will bring.
Good. Well, thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
You know, as I was listening to both Terry and Robert, I heard of some themes developing. And before we go on, I wanted to take a moment to just reinforce a couple of the things that I was hearing, because I think they did a beautiful job of setting the stage for today and what's happening. You know, Terry talked, both Terry and Robert mentioned this idea of academic silos, which we hear all the time, and it certainly exists. I mean, we build our academic world around our particular discipline. Terry pointed out, you know, that the world is changing. The world's developing so quickly that you know, our silos aren't adequate anymore. We've got to move into this world of being across disciplines and things. Terry pointed out just, you know, the excitement of working at working at the intersection of ideas and disciplines, that's where so much great stuff is going on now. And then Robert developed, you know, from a very UCCS perspective, both some of the limitations, but the opportunities that a campus like ours has in this interdisciplinary world. So it was, you know, it's certainly true that we have had on our books opportunities for students to develop majors and things that crossed multiple disciplines and allowed them to take ideas from multiple disciplines and put things together. I mean, it was an LAS degree, but you know, LAS was so broad that there were a lot of opportunities there. So I'm glad Robert highlighted that as well, because it's a reminder that our campus has made efforts in these areas for many, many years. Now, we got a lot of room to grow yet. But I think there's the ideas that Terry and Robert presented here really helped get us started here. So with that just reflection, I was struck by both presentations, and I wanted to share that before we moved on here. So thank you again to Terry and Robert for getting those presentations and getting us started on what I think is exactly the right track for what we're trying to say and do today. So that's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we next offer comments from the IASP Advisory Board. These individuals contributed to the shaping of this concept as it was being developed, and we're grateful for their thoughtful contributions. We'll start with a video presentation from Dr. Kelly Klebe, Professor of Psychology, Dean of the Graduate School, and soon to be the interim provost. Needless to say, I am particularly grateful to Dr. Klebe. Kelly joined UCCS in 1990 and has served the campus in many capacities besides the ones I already mentioned, including having been president of the Faculty Assembly and chair of the Psychology Department. Now, the Dean of the Graduate School is certainly the most multidisciplinary of the dean roles, in that it works across the entire campus. But Dr. Klebe also has a good understanding of the interdisciplinary world, as we will hear now in her recorded comments.
Hello, and welcome to the first official event of the Interdisciplinary Academic Studies Program, although I know that many of you have been meeting for some time now to put together a plan to help UCCS develop more and stronger interdisciplinary programs. Thank you, Dr. Sumwall and the IASP committee members for your past work and for your continuing work. I cannot join you today as I'm on this beach, that is my background, but I do hope you are able to generate many ideas that we can pursue in the future. It is my personal belief that UCCS needs more interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and cross-disciplinary activities, whether that is in research or in academic programs. I'm sure that Dr. Smith will talk about research and Dr. Taylor will mention undergraduate education. So I'll just speak to graduate education. I hope you will identify opportunities and teams that can build new interdisciplinary graduate degree programs on our campus. We don't really have any of those that are across 3 or more colleges. Interdisciplinary work allows us to approach knowledge generation and problem solving from multiple angles. It allows us to get out of our silos and single disciplinary approaches, to broaden our perspectives and work in teams. I hope that as you proceed, you will consider ways for us to develop interdisciplinary graduate programs and get graduate students involved in working in cross-disciplinary teams. I know generating ideas is exciting, and I hope you develop some excellent new opportunities for UCCS. I also know that this type of work can be difficult. I see some of these difficulties as we build out our cybersecurity initiative. There is much excellent work going on in cybersecurity on campus and in colleges and in departments, but from my viewpoint, we're building within our silos, although many disciplines across colleges are participating. However, I think we could also have a stronger program if we were to develop an interdisciplinary perspective alongside the strong disciplinary programs being developed. It may be a systemic problem. As a university, we need to think of new ways to develop, incentivize, fund, evaluate, and get through our own bureaucratic processes we put in place. I hope you will find ways to help knock down the barriers so we can develop more interdisciplinary graduate programs, undergraduate programs, and research teams. Don't let our erected barriers get in your way, because the work you're doing is important. It is better for UCCS, our students, our faculty, our community, and industry if we can develop interdisciplinary approaches to solving problems and generating knowledge. Let me know how I and the graduate school can help you as you progress. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Kelly. Our next speaker is Dr. Jessie Smith, Professor of Psychology and Associate Vice Chancellor for Research. By the way, Dr. Smith was an undergraduate student at UCCS and received her bachelor's degree in psychology from us and was a student of Dr. Klebe's. Jessie rejoined the UCCS community in 2018 when we expanded the research role to a full-time position. She certainly filled that expanded role with a wide range of accomplishments which have impacted the growth of research on our campus, both for our faculty and for our students, while continuing her own research in social psychology. In her campus leadership role, Dr. Smith has assembled multiple interdisciplinary teams to develop major research grant applications. Jessie?
Great, thank you so much, and welcome to everybody, and thank you for the invitation to talk briefly with everyone. I am going to start with the bad news and then end with the good news. As Dr. Klebe alluded to, this interdisciplinary work is hard. And I think to go in with any other expectation, with the dogs barking, sorry, will be to your disadvantage. And what do I mean when I say that it's hard? I mean that working across those silos that Dr. Bolt mentioned requires that we have a shared language, that we understand, we can come to the table and understand when I say epistemology, that you know what that means, because that's a common word in my discipline. But what if you don't know what that word means, right? So we have to acknowledge in interdisciplinary work that we have our own jargon. And it's really hard to get out of that. And so instead of trying to get out of it, when you're doing interdisciplinary research, my suggestion is that you actually take intentional time to teach each other, to become miniature seminars, if you will, to understand language, to understand the semantics, to understand the jargon, and also, frankly, the analysis, right? The beauty of interdisciplinary research is also the part of the difficulty. We all have our own disciplinary analysis approaches, and you can get tripped up on that, right? Because you have the thing that you're an expert in as a researcher, and so that's what you want to see. And it's hard to put your head up and say, let me appreciate and value and be open to an alternative analysis and see it as a complement. So the danger in interdisciplinary work that I've seen that I want to warn against is in some ways what Callie mentioned with the silos, is that everybody goes to their corner and answers the question to that they're answering from their discipline, and then they just come together and say, all right, we've now got 8 answers. That's a start. And the hope, right, is the integration. So I think instead of thinking about this as interdisciplinary, my suggestion is to think about this as integration, right? How do we learn from each other? How do we get a more complete picture? And it's going to have some stumbling blocks. So just be aware of that and enjoy that experience. We all love to learn. We all love the journey, and be willing to read an article that will sound foreign to you in a different journal in a different discipline. And don't be shy about saying, I don't understand these words, right? I'm a smart person, but I don't understand this jargon. That's okay. And that will make the end result so much stronger. Patience. That's what I wrote down as these are my only notes on this talk today. Patience. This work takes time. So the other sort of warning I have about interdisciplinary work is that patience to publish, the patience to go to conferences and give talks. Because what you'll find is that journals also, book publishers, they also don't sometimes know yet what to do with your interdisciplinary research. They're like, well, this seems better suited for a sociology journal, or this seems better suited for a bioinformatics journal. And you're like, but it's both, right? So nobody wants it because it doesn't perfectly fit into any one dissemination output. So be wise. So my suggestion might be that you, as you work on your products, you work together on these problems and you want to share. Please don't forget, you do need to disseminate, right? That's it's not any fun to just stop with learning for the sake of learning. It'd be great to learn to share the knowledge more broadly, but to do that, you might want to consider who has the expertise in that particular audience that you're trying to reach. So you might end up switching audience, first authors. You might end up switching how you write in the citations that you use in a particular publication. You might be able to actually take your idea and put it in multiple journals because you've used a different frame or a different analysis or a different idea to interpret the same problem set. It doesn't always work out that nice and tidy, but patience is key. It's going to take you a little bit longer than you're used to as you do this type of research. From the beginning, when you're working on that shared language, shared understanding and reading list, all the way through to the end when you're trying to actually put that data out into the world, that analysis, that idea, because the world wants and says that interdisciplinary is key. But at the end of the day, everybody went off and specialized. And so that has created those barriers that Dr. Klebe mentioned. And so we don't want you to be deterred by that, but it is important that you have your eyes open and your expectations calibrated for how this kind of work will go. It's going to be slower. If you thought academia was the fast-paced river, you were terribly mistaken. It's a slow glacier, and interdisciplinary work is even slower. And so that's okay, that's fun. But it does mean carving out time to do multiple pieces at the same time. That's will keep your energy up, keep your students motivated, keep all of your great ideas ever turning. So I would end by just saying the leadership and accountability piece is essential. And I'm so excited for this team, this group. You have a wonderful advisory board and executive committee, and of course, a great leader in Dr. Simwal. And I would say, don't be shy about using all of us to help when you get stuck, when you meet those barriers, when you're feeling frustrated because the research is not going the way you wanted it to. It just takes somebody to help you stay organized, truly. And you just have to be willing to put in a little bit of logistical time to work out the pragmatics for getting this type of work done. And I guarantee that you will reap the benefits, and it will be a true joyous journey that you will not regret. And if I can be of help at any time, whether it's to brainstorm research ideas, to think about new people to invite to the table that maybe you're not thinking about, or if you're looking for funding opportunities, journal outlets, conference, whatever it might be, I would say my door is always open. My Zoom is always open. My computer is always on, like that is actually true. So please do not be shy about reaching out. We are here to support each other. It takes a team, and you've got a great team in front of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessie. Susan Taylor, Professor of English and Associate Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education and Academic Planning, joined UCCS in 1994 and has served the campus in various roles, including English Department Chair and co-chair of the General Education Task Force that eventually led to our campus curriculum. She became Associate Vice Chancellor in fall of 2017 after serving as a faculty fellow in the Provost's office. She's a noted scholar of English literature with a specialization in the Brontes. We now watch a video presentation from Dr. Taylor.
Hello to everyone, and a new project and group that is supporting interdisciplinary work at UCCS. It's really important to create these kinds of opportunities for faculty from across campus to work together and provide insights on ideas from a variety of disciplinary backgrounds. From my own experience working, especially in the last several years, with campus-wide groups such as the Council on Undergraduate Education, the Campus Curriculum Committee, and others, I've really seen how valuable it is to have input from multiple colleges and disciplines. And additionally, in my own experience teaching in Humanities 3990, which is the interdisciplinary humanities focused course within the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences, I've seen how that has expanded my own thinking as a teacher and a scholar. When I join with other disciplines in studying a topic, I've also found that students really appreciate as well this chance to examine common points and cross currents among fields that are often seen as distinct. So I wish you an invigorating symposium today and a lot of really, really important cross-disciplinary conversation.
Thanks, Susan. Our final advisory board presentation is from Dr. Dorothea Olkowski, Professor of Philosophy. Dorothea joined UCCS in 1990. She served as the Director of the Humanities Program and Director of the Cognitive Studies minor. She's a recognized expert in 20th century continental philosophy. Our campus has recognized her with the Chancellor's Award and awards in teaching and in research. Dr. Olkowski also joins us via video.
I'm Professor Dorothea Olkowski in the Department of Philosophy and Director of Humanities, and I'd like to say a few words about complexity. Complexity is now being embraced as a nearly magical formula across a multiplicity of disciplines, from economics and business to politics and much, much more. But before joining this chorus, let's take a closer look at the meaning of complexity. From Galileo and Newton's mechanical universe to the present, understanding the world has meant that the simple could always explain the complex. And this is not exactly true. The simple explains the complicated. It explains that which consists of many simples, many parts. But it could never explain complexity. Why not? Because if the simple cannot be used to explain it, then what can? What do we mean by complexity? Well, contemporary theorists have approached this question in a variety of ways. Mandelbrot on fractals, Ilya Prigogine on dissipative systems, Stuart Kaufman on the origin of life, and Christopher Langton on artificial AI models. Let's try an approach that will be familiar to most of us. Imagine a waterfall, like some of those in our Rocky Mountains or the Iguazu Falls on the border of Argentina and Brazil, said to be among the most beautiful in the world. Such falls are extremely turbulent. They are chaotic, meaning spontaneous and extremely irregular on the macroscopic scale. Nothing can be sustained in these turbulent waters. At the bottom of the falls, the water remains agitated and violent, but a bit further downstream, there may be quieter pools of water, not static, meaning not at equilibrium. For at equilibrium, nothing unusual, interesting, or remarkable can happen. So in the least, these pools of water are run through by currents and flows that arise from the waterfall itself. They are no longer turbulent, but they're not at rest either. And it's here that complexity can happen, but it would not happen without the chaos of the turbulent waterfall. So this is the story of complexity. Complexity happens at the edge of chaos. So don't wish for either constant and chaotic turbulence. It's exciting, but it's neither productive nor creative, nor for the quiet of equilibrium, so-called perfection. Look for complexity to happen where it does happen, always at the edge of chaos.
Thanks, Dorothea. I'm also pleased to announce our newest member of the advisory board. As of yesterday, Dr. Peg Bacon, former professor of education, former dean of the College of Education, and former provost, and now emerita in all those roles at UCCS, has agreed to join the advisory board. Dr. Bacon brings a strong interest and commitment to interdisciplinary education, and we're delighted to have her join us as well. So in listening to these, I'm again going to take a moment, partly because we are running a little ahead of time. We'll insert a video here shortly from the Santa Fe Institute, but I did want to I'm intrigued by how these things develop somewhat spontaneously here. We had such a great opening from our two distinguished professors, and now as we get into some of the people who are on the advisory board in a more often administrative role, we get down to a little more some of the details that can be obstacles, but can also be challenges that can be overcome when we're dealing with this interdisciplinary work. So in listening to these most recent presentations, we heard something about the need to develop teams, which is so true. I mean, you need to put together a team, and teamwork is not always easy. It does provide its own set of complications. And that was reinforced with some of the comments Jesse had, that this is not easy work. You need patience in order to do it. And you need to develop a shared language, which requires us to form these teams, but then to teach one another on these teams. Kelly pointed out that there really are a lot of opportunities at the graduate level. There is such a tendency to be even more siloed at the graduate level than at the undergraduate level. So it would be great to see some things develop from this. And I know many of you actually are working on some things, especially in this area of complexity that Dorothea just addressed, that this is an area that's appropriate at all levels, but one that requires interdisciplinary solutions in order to get at it. We also heard a little bit about that there are systemic issues. We are a bureaucratic structure, and that does create barriers that we need to be able to overcome. So this was part of the impetus for forming this IASP, was that we need to overcome these barriers. So we need to identify them. We need a group of faculty who can be working with other faculty to help overcome all of this. So it was just, as I say, interesting to me to see how these things, how this session is already developing and moving in the right direction as we hear these presentations. It also occurs to me that from a pedagogical viewpoint, repetition is a good thing. And so I thought it was worthwhile going back a couple of times as we were going through here and just highlighting some of what we were hearing to make sure that you're getting the message that will now be developed even more as we go on. So I just wanted to comment a little further that each of our academic disciplines has a unique way of looking at issues, which is often rooted in the historical development of that discipline. And we often bring people from multiple disciplines together to take advantage of these different perspectives in addressing issues that confront us. But the real magic happens when we merge these perspectives into a true interdisciplinary effort, which takes the best from each of the academic disciplines and perspectives and blends them together to create a new perspective that's not confined by our traditional ways of thinking. It's these exciting interdisciplinary efforts that we seek to promote and develop on our campus. Today's program will present a wide array of efforts that are underway on our campus, which cross disciplinary boundaries. These presentations are by no means a complete representation of all the efforts on our campus, but the intent is to help make us all aware of the excellent work being done and to further develop some of these efforts by encouraging more collaboration, more teamwork, more teaching one another that will continue to build true interdisciplinary efforts on our campus. Before we go on to the video, I did want to take a moment to thank Dr. Semwal and the organizing committee for the excellent work that they have done in putting together today's event. And I also wanted to thank all of our presenters who are contributing to this event and for their continuing work and efforts to help make progress on our campus. So as we were putting this together, some of what motivated both some of the work that's being done by a group of faculty on complexity, but also the idea of this interdisciplinary work was some of the work being done down at the Santa Fe Institute. And so just to kind of help share some of that motivation, we'd like at this point to share with you a video produced by the Santa Fe Institute.